We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're wonderful words written by very intelligent people. Bottom line is it didn't mean everybody. And the entire history of our nation has been trying to make those words mean something for everybody. And the only way that we can make that happen in today's society, this chaotic society that we're living in, both nationally, locally, statewide, is to teach our children that there were more than white men who owned land who made our country what it is, for good and for bad. And why Caddo is important to me is because I really never learned about him until I was at least, I think, 40 years old, 40 plus. And I learned about him because I was reading a Philadelphia Star-Gazette magazine about the McMullen brothers, who were the ward heelers of Southwark, and there was the gangs of New York, kind of our version of the gangs in New York, with the hose companies and the sports teams, and they were responsible for actually assassinating Caddo on Election Day in 1871. But Caddo was in those 20 pages of information, and I was like, this guy's pretty special. Like, why haven't I been told about him? Why wasn't I taught about him when I was in grade school in our history books? And Malcolm X said one time that if you didn't know you ever did anything, you don't know you can do anything. And that the contributions of people of color in history of the United States and the world were systematically ripped out of the pages of our history books, because they didn't want people to know that people unlike themselves could do anything heroic or historic. And in Philadelphia, it was really important because we had so many free black people that lived and educated and did commerce in our city. James Fortin, for example, who was one of the first millionaires in our country, who owned a sail-making company, who employed hundreds of people, both black and white. Caddo's contemporaries, the Pythians, the baseball team, and these were all educated men who were teachers and scholars and some of the best baseball players in the country. One of the funny stories that I've read in Tasting Freedom, and this is a book that I would recommend, was the Pythians finally convinced the white team to have a game with them and really kind of kick their butts, and that was the end of black-white baseball playing for a while, and were segregated and relegated to their own baseball teams and leagues and Negro leagues and other things until obviously Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. I think our kids, not only African-American children or Latino children, children of color, need to know these stories. I think the white kids need to know these stories. Because when you grow up, it's like having Barbie dolls. All the Barbie dolls in the 50s and 60s and 70s were all white people. And how do you translate to a young African American child that they're important too, that they have value, and that they've contributed to this country? There have been people of color fighting in every single war in this country's history. And I've always said, and these people are starting to fade away now because they're passing on, the most patriotic people this country ever put forward were black veterans of World War II. And those guys and women put those hats on, and they wear them standing on the corner or in the Senior Citizen Center, and they were proud of what they did for their country, but their country wasn't proud of what they did for them. A lot of the Tuskegee Airmen wound up staying in Sicily because there was basically no racial prejudice, and they felt that they were equal. So how do you go to war for your country in any particular battle, any particular war, and come home to Jim Crow and segregation? So I'll go back to Caddo. Caddo was a person who you couldn't ride in the back of the bus. You couldn't ride in the trolley at all. You could hang off the side of the trolley. You could go on the trolley's roof in the rain, but you could not get on a trolley car in Philadelphia if you were a person of color, even if you were in your uniform as a soldier of the Union forces. Even if you were family members going to visit your wounded soldier at the military hospital in Philadelphia. So these things I was not shocked about, but I was surprised that this great wealth of information and history was not taught to me as a child, because you would have a different view of people and people's contributions to the country. I would recommend a field trip for any of you to go out to a Stark Eden Cemetery in Colwyn, Pennsylvania, and walk through the rows of graves there. Everybody's out there. Everybody who is anybody in the early parts of our middle, say, 1840s through 1901, 1930s, were all lot of them were buried out there. Marian Anderson's out there. The Stills are out there. Caddo's out there. I mean, and it's a walking history lesson for not African-American history. I say this all the time. It's not African-American History Month. It is American History Month. It's been delayed and been denied, period. And, yeah. So I want to encourage you to try to find not only the Caddo stories, but all the stories of the folks who actually walk these streets. This is not Williamsburg, where we made like Hollywood or like Disney World. This is the real live stuff. Where right around the corner from here, over there was the abolitionist hall. It was burned down on the third day. After the third day it was built, before it even opened, they burned it down. The stuff that was going on in the city. This was sadly a very pro-Southern city in the Civil War because of the textiles and the need for cotton and the textile industry. And the Union League, for example, was created to kind of combat that pro-Southern, pro-slavery, pro-Confederacy attitude in Philadelphia. So we have a great, rich history. You'll find a lot of stuff in the Union League. You can organize tours of the Union League for your students. And I just think it's important that they all understand that every single one of us contributed to the greatness and to the sometimes this not so greatness of this country. And to think about a period of time in our country in 2017 when neo-Nazis are marching through a college campus in Virginia with torches. That was one of the most frightening things I've ever seen since 1968 when I was a kid, when I thought the world was coming to an end during the Tet Offensive and the Vietnam War and King and Kennedy's assassinations and all the stuff that went on there. It was scary. It's scary now, too. And I think that the way we fight that back is by knowledge and information, and the way we teach our kids what really happened in America. We have a statue coming. We have lots of statue problems in Philadelphia. It's like on one side we got a problem, and on the other side we're all, yay! It's like, we'll work it all out, but I'm very happy after 15 years we were able to bring him. He's on his way from Los Angeles to Philadelphia and will be erected unveiled on the 26th of September, and invite you all to come. And I want to congratulate you on your hard work for I believe, a fair contract that you all received with our help and cooperation. Frankly, because you deserve it. Thank you.